all of us need to bear the sacrifice that would be made if we move forward with retaliatory measures of this sort.
Yeah, all of us have to bear the sacrifices because of Justin Trudeau's mistakes. Welcome to Stand on Guard. I'm your host, David Krayden. When we come back, what's happening at the border and what's happening with politicians who are exploiting a situation, a disaster that they created. We'll be right back. We need political change, but we also need to resolve to resist. Yes, please like this station, subscribe. If we're losing subscribers, we're going in the wrong direction. Thank you for subscribing, resubscribing if you need to. We really appreciate your support. We need those subscribers, and it's very, very important. And please let your friends and family know about this show, where we get real news analysis. I think that's the one thing I can offer. So we're still at loggerheads with Donald Trump and Canada, or is it the Trudeau government? Is it Team Trudeau instead of Team Canada? Yes, it's Team Trudeau. Trudeau's exploiting this situation. Let's listen to what Donald Trump told the World Economic Forum yesterday. He was very clear about what the problem is between himself and Justin Trudeau.
Demanding is we're going to be demanding respect from other nations. Canada, we have a tremendous deficit with Canada. We're not going to have that anymore. We can't do it. I don't know if it's good for them. As you probably know, I say you can always become a state. And if you're a state, we won't have a deficit. We won't have to tariff you, et cetera, et cetera. But Canada has been very tough to deal with over the years. And it's not fair that we should have a $200 billion or $250 billion deficit. We don't need them to make our cars, and they make a lot of them. We don't need their lumber because we have our own forests, et cetera, et cetera. We don't need their oil and gas. We have more than anybody. So, just as an example, with Mexico, we're dealing with Mexico, I think, very well. And we just want to be treated fairly with other nations, because there's hardly a nation in the world, and I blame this on us, and I blame it on politicians that, for some reason, mostly it's stupidity, but you could also say other reasons, but mostly stupidity. They've allowed other nations to take advantage of the U.S., and we can't allow that to happen anymore.
Now, does Justin Trudeau understand the definition of diplomacy? Because I'm not going to play the clip again where he suggests that it was a bad thing that Kamala Harris did not win the presidential election. Talk about massively insulting the new president. Do you think that helped Canada's position vis-a-vis Donald Trump and the United States? But what does Trudeau say? The border's still no big deal. In fact, he dismisses it yesterday. Just listen to this.
Announced that he wants a golden age for the American economy. The federal government has continued to say clearly, as I will, that everything is on the table. If he does move forward on tariffs on Canada, as he has said, whether it be back on January 20th or on February 1st or February 15th as a Valentine's Day present, or on April 1st, or whenever he says he's going to do it, as he keeps repeating, two things will happen. One, Canada will have a strong, robust response, because we don't want this, but we will respond if necessary. And two, prices for American consumers on just about everything will go up. And we don't think he wants that. So we're going to be there. He has talked about the border as being a great preoccupation for him. We have highlighted that less than 1% of illegal drugs coming into the United States, less than 1% of migrants going into the United States come from Canada. But we're still investing over $1 billion in strengthening our borders. And as an illustration of what we've been saying all along, Toronto Police and the Border Services Agency just seized about 835 kilograms of cocaine coming in from the United States into Canada via Mexican cartels. So we have challenges at our border on both sides of the border, and we are there to work constructively with them on those issues.
There you go again. There you go again.
We do not seek to harm Albertans any further, but I said it needs to be fair for all Canadians. We can't have one region of the country carrying a bigger burden because of Donald Trump's actions. We need to defend all of Canada. It's her job to defend Alberta, but we all want to defend all Canadians.
Yeah, there he goes again. A little bit of history there from the 1980 presidential debate between Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter. Reagan said that several times, and that could be equally applied to Justin Trudeau, who repeats the same crap over and over again. And it really is incredible how he doesn't get it. Wanted to play another brief clip from that Trump speech to the WEF yesterday, because Trump is wrong. I have to interject here about the $250 billion trade deficit. Take energy out of that equation, the Americans have the advantage. Canada has the trade deficit. And no, the United States cannot use exclusively U.S. oil and gas. That's because their refineries are not geared for sweet crude, which is what the American petroleum is. The more sulfurous petroleum that comes from Canada, that's what most of the U.S. refineries are geared to refine. I don't know if Donald Trump knows that or not, whether he's being willfully ignorant about it. This is all part of his game. But what he really wants from Justin Trudeau is an apology, clearly. But I love what Trump said about the Green New Deal.
To move very quickly. We've moved very quickly. We've done things in the last 3 days that nobody thought were possible to do in years. And it's all taking effect. It's going to have a huge impact on the economy, a huge positive impact. Money was being wasted on crazy things. I mean, the Green New Deal was such a total disgrace, how that was perpetrated. And it was conceived of by people that were average students, less than average students, I might add, and never even took a course in energy or the environment. It was just a game. Remember, the world was going to end in 12 years. Remember that? Well, the 12 years has come and gone. It was going to end. It was going to all foam into earth. But, you know, the time has come. These people, and they really scared the Democrats large. I can't say the Republicans. The Republicans maybe could have fought harder to stop it, but it's been a tremendous waste of money. You know, during my 4 years, we had the cleanest air, we had the cleanest water, and yet we had the most productive economy in the history of our country. We had the most productive economy until COVID came. We had the most productive in the history of our country by.
Now, where do you think this is all going? And as I said yesterday, Justin Trudeau is using this situation. He's exploiting the situation. He wants a trade war. Clearly, he's talking like that. Like he should bring on the trade war. Why? Because he wants to run against Donald Trump, not Pierre Poilievre. And why is Pierre Poilievre suddenly all in favor of retaliatory tariffs? Well, I understand the situation he's in. I understand because there's massive support for those tariffs. But let's have a look at this poll because this is interesting. And nobody's actually pointing this out. All right, so 82% agree that Canada should retaliate and add its own tariffs on American goods entering Canada. President Trump instituted 25% tariffs on Canadian goods entering the United States. Canada should retaliate on American goods. 82% agree. Okay, so that should mean that 18% disagree, right? But no, it's because people answer the same question in different ways. 55% disagreed with that. Alberta Premier Daniel Smith is right that Canadian oil and gas exports cannot be part of the response to Trump's tariffs. 55% in this Ipsos poll agreed with that statement. So clearly there's a disconnect here between these numbers. That's not 18%, that's 55%. And on the other hand, it's not 45%, it's 82%. So there's conflicting notions about what this question actually means. But clearly the signal is for people like Justin Trudeau and in the province of Ontario, Doug Ford, this is a chance to exploit a situation and for electoral gain. And that's exactly what's going on here. Interesting, the same Ipsos poll, 3/4, 77% of Canadians want an immediate election to give the next government a strong mandate to deal with Trump's threats. Now, that's what we've been saying all along. And of course, Pierre Poilievre is also saying that. But he's really been boxed in over these retaliatory tariffs. And like I say, I completely understand why. Because he's looking at these polls and he's saying, where do I go with this? But clearly, Daniel Smith has been the only Canadian fighting for Canada in all this. Up until, we'll be watching Scott Moe in a second, but watch how Doug Ford, the faux conservative, the phony conservative from Ontario, who's always in Justin Trudeau's pocket at crucial times, whether it's during the COVID pandemic or whether it's during the Emergencies Act, Doug Ford is always in the pocket of Justin Trudeau. Doug Ford wants to exploit this situation, and here's what he's going to do.
But we need a mandate from the people. We need a mandate to protect and possibly spend billions of dollars to protect people's jobs, to protect businesses, and to protect communities. And there's only one group of people, one group that is going to give you the mandate, and that's the people, and that's what's great about democracy. They either vote a government in or they vote them out. But thanks, everybody.
There you go, folks. $528 billion EV mandate. Didn't pay off. $52 billion electric vehicle gamble. That's where Doug Ford's going to spend your money, to try to save the electric vehicles in Ontario and the great inflation. That's why he has to spend billions of dollars to so-called save jobs. This is absolutely outrageous. And this is what Doug Ford's plan for Canadians is. This is what Doug Ford wants to do, exploit the situation. He's going to run against Donald Trump too. And he also knows that if Pierre Poilievre wins the next election, traditionally in Ontario will vote one way federally and a different way provincially. In other words, for years, for decades, the PC, I've always hated that party name, Progressive Conservative. It's an oxymoron, but the Progressive Conservative Party, the Red Tory Party of Ontario, has traditionally been in power when the federal Liberals have been in power, and vice versa. Doug Ford is very concerned that Pierre Poilievre is going to become the next prime minister. We're going to have a huge Conservative majority in Ottawa, and Ontario will turf him out. So he wants to run now. And it's all about saving Doug Ford. Always everything with Doug Ford is about saving Doug Ford. He is Justin Trudeau's brother. Scott Moe is having buyer remorse about being part of Team Trudeau. Let's listen to this.
Of those very small targeted tariffs that are there to change the minds of U.S. decision makers. What we have seen since last week is some of the language change to broad-based dollar-for-dollar tariffs being, counter tariffs being imposed. Saskatchewan's not in support of that. The broad-based counter tariffs are escalating. The entire conversation around tariffs will be hurtful to Canadians and will be hurtful to the entirety of North Americans, and ultimately to that North American energy and food manufacturing security that we want to achieve. Export tariffs put on by our own national government on products that we might produce here in Saskatchewan or anywhere else in Canada. Our Saskatchewan most certainly is not supportive of and would be working actively to ensure that an export tariff couldn't be applied on Saskatchewan products. And we're looking at what opportunities provinces have exercising the provincial jurisdiction as we speak when it comes to the potential of export tariffs down the way. And so the very targeted tariffs, small targeted tariffs that don't have an impact on our economy, we have had discussions with the federal government about our support for those. Broad-based tariffs, dollar-for-dollar tariffs with the U.S. is not in Canadians' best interest, nor should export tariffs ever be considered by our government.
All right, so Justin Trudeau wants Saskatchewan, but mainly Alberta, to suffer. They can talk about we're all going to suffer equally. This is a game. This is a political game. And I'm outraged that people are not recognizing what's going on here. This is all about saving Justin Trudeau and now Doug Ford politically. Here's a wrap up of the border issue. This is what I'm saying. And you won't hear this on the mainstream media, and I don't think anybody else on YouTube is saying this. Trudeau wants a trade war, and the Liberals, including Doug Ford, expect us all to sacrifice. What do you say about that? Justin Trudeau just said Donald Trump has a border preoccupation. Trudeau does not think the border is a priority, and this is not a serious border security plan. As I said, the Liberals are spending money on the border over 6 years. 6 years. If that doesn't resonate with you in terms of that not being a solution for today, we need a solution now. Donald Trump has said repeatedly the border is the issue. The border plan cannot be paid for because Trudeau suspended Parliament. This is another point. When the Parliament's prorogued, there's no approval going on for spending. So this hasn't even been approved yet. The spending is for the future, and it is 1/5, and this year it's 1/5 of what they have put towards the gun grab. There are no boots on the ground for this, and the RCMP bought Chinese drones in December. This is a failed, well, it's not even failed, it's a non-existent border security plan. And do you think Justin Trudeau knows that? Oh, I think so. I think so. Now let's hear what Kevin O'Leary had to say about it. I know some of you hate Kevin O'Leary, some of you love Kevin O'Leary, but I think he actually brings some sense to this discussion right here.
Or you're going to be tariffed. That's the message to the Mexicans. To the Canadians, start spending on security at the northern border and pay your 2% to NATO and stop sending fentanyl from China over the border into the United States, or you're going to face tariffs. That's the signal there. To the Germans, if you don't start making more cars in America, we're going to tariff the you-know-what out of your cars coming here. And it on and on for each country. It's the tariff signal, if you want to call it that, is a negotiating leverage tool because Trump commands the largest market on earth. There's no market larger than the United States. For China, it's a whole different kettle of fish. We're in an economic war with China.
Yeah. So that's what he's saying. Can we just understand what he's trying to say? And here's a fascinating interview on Tucker Carlson's show the other day, which I think illustrates again why Donald Trump thinks Justin Trudeau might not be exactly serious or sincere about border security, especially when the RCMP goes out and buys Chinese drones. Yeah, Canada bought unusable Chinese drones at the border. We talked about this yesterday. These drones are a security problem. This is
an intel person told me that this person believed that they were in fact Chinese, and that a Chinese satellite went down, was visible to the naked eye. There were news stories about it. It evaporated, it burned up, and that this person told me that was taken down by the U.S. government. That was a command and control satellite for these drones. And the belief was the Chinese government was sending the following message: we're moving on Taiwan and maybe other things. You can't do anything about it.
For the first time since Donald Trump's victory, a glimpse of what the Liberals plan to do to handle the incoming U.S. president and his demands.
There will be a sharp focus on fentanyl, human smuggling, and organized transnational crime.
To do that, the RCMP will get a new aerial task force equipped with helicopters. Chemicals involved in making fentanyl will be banned, alongside more money for drug detection, and a pitch to organize a joint task force with the Americans. But the announcement had no details or timelines.
I can't just buy a helicopter tomorrow, but there are processes where you can rent the helicopter, and we're exploring every facet that we can.
The cost, $1.3 billion, a part of trying to placate the incoming president, who's railed against what he's called the invasion of fentanyl and illegal immigrants from Canada, threatening a 25% tariff on all Canadian goods going to the States.
I think these are the kinds of things that could potentially make a political difference. Whether or not they make a material difference is a really open question.
A material difference hard to make on a nearly 9,000 kilometer border with no new RCMP or CBSA officers announced.
And what we don't have is people who can actually respond when one of these sensors goes off, because the closest Mountie post will be like 45 minutes away.
To get any of those new tools, the money needs to pass the House of Commons, part of the fall economic statement that will face a steep battle to become law. The Conservatives previously said they'd help pass a border plan, but were non-committal today.
Wouldn't it be nice if we had a prime minister who said, we secured the borders, we put more boots on the ground?
Here's that fall economic statement again. Let's have a look at this, because this is absolutely shocking. Once again, look at those numbers. That's how Trudeau's border plan unfolds. $81 million in this fiscal year. $51 million to take weapons off our streets. $10 million for protecting women's reproductive. For abortion. All kinds of money over the next 6 years for woke policies. And yeah, $1.3 billion over 6 years to unfold this one. What do you think of that? This is clearly, the numbers are there for anybody to see. This is a government that's not serious in the least about border security. And it's not serious about really negotiating with Donald Trump, because Justin Trudeau wants a trade war. He wants to run against Donald Trump. So what's happening with the Liberal leadership race? And I've said again, if the Supreme Court challenge on proroguing is successful, we could be back in the House of Commons by February 14th or 15th. We could have a non-confidence vote immediately after that. That would necessitate an election within 4 to 5, 6 weeks. Justin Trudeau would probably be running for the Liberal Party at that point, because the Liberals would not have chosen a new leader, and they would be 3 weeks away from that. So you see what's happening here. There's still a good possibility that Justin Trudeau could run in the next election. But wow, my God, we need another election. I can't make that any clearer. So what's happening with Chrystia Freeland? Seems to be falling apart at the seams again. Let's have a look at this.
You think the party is sur le gain en capital, pourquoi vous faites marche arrière sur le gain en capital? Attendez, sur le gain en capital, pourquoi vous faites marche arrière?
C'est difficile d'entendre parce que tout le monde crie. OK, alors.
Sur le gain en capital, pourquoi vous faites marche arrière?
Je comprends. Et j'ai compris.
Yeah, she's having some trouble keeping it together. Now, Karina Gould, the House leader, former government House leader, she has admitted the carbon tax has no benefit to consumers. She didn't say I've been lying for the last 9 years, but she might as well have said that. She didn't say Justin Trudeau's been lying about 8 out of 10 Canadians getting more money back in their pockets through the Canadian carbon rebate, but she might as well have said that. She admitted it's been an utter failure for consumers. Let's watch this. Just look at this woman admitting I've been lying for 9 years, but trust me, I can keep smiling. And trust me, I won't lie to you next time. Of course you will. These liberals have only one way of communicating, and that's by not telling the truth.
And I think we're in this position that we are in now with a new leadership race underway because we have an opportunity now to show Canadians that we hear them on the issues that matter to them and show them how we're going to change our positions moving forward.
So let me ask you about some of those issues. I mean, you've answered some of these questions, but I just want to get them for clarity's sake, particularly around the consumer portion of the carbon tax, because that's another one we did multiple interviews on. And specifically, I remember asking you the day the House resumed about the upcoming increase. And you said a number of things. It's a really important plank in our plan in the fight against climate change. If it were cut, a lot of these very good jobs that have been attracted to Canada are dependent on the fact that we have a price on pollution. There are real jobs at risk here. Are you now willing to put those jobs at risk?
No, because that's the industrial price on pollution. And so I think we need to keep the industrial price on pollution.
But I was asking you about the consumer price at that time.
And I'm consistent in my argument here because it is still about the industrial price on pollution. But on the consumer price on pollution, my commitment is to cancel the increase that is planned for April 1st because I've been lying for 9 years. Until we have a plan in place to deal with the reductions emissions that make up about 10% of Canada's emissions reductions plan, we need to keep that price but not increase it, because what we're hearing from Canadians is now is not the time to make that increase. But what I also hear from Canadians is that they care about the fight against climate change. This just isn't the vehicle in which they want.
Do you think she's hearing that from Canadians? That they really give a damn about this fight for climate change at this point when we're facing 25% tariff, economic catastrophe? You really think Canadians are telling her that?
To make that fight. And so one of the things that I think about a lot is how can we actually help Canadians make the choices that they want to make to reduce their emissions? And let's be clear, like, Canadians are making personal choices to reduce their emissions, but it's still too expensive to buy an electric vehicle or a hybrid. It's still too expensive, you know, when you're paying to heat your home. So I would like to bring back the rebate and increase the rebate for EV and hybrid vehicles. I would include gas hybrids in that, because that's a way for Canadians to also reduce their emissions. And I would bring back the home energy retrofit program, and I would do it in a bigger way, because these are things that can actually help Canadians make the choices that they want to make, but that right now are just unaffordable for them.
I mean, a number of your progressive allies in you know, premiers, for example, across the provinces have been making that kind of argument, right? Like the carrot versus stick approach. To be clear, are you leaning towards the carrot versus your government, which was leaning towards the stick?
Look, I think that when we brought in the price on pollution, it was the right decision at the time. But the world has changed. The economy has changed. People's situations have changed. And so we need to change with the times as well. And part of democracy is listening to your citizens. And when citizens are saying, we care about climate, we care about reducing our emissions, but this policy isn't working for us the way that it was intended, I'm not too proud to change that.
Okay, so you've been lying all along. So Justin Trudeau, every time Justin Trudeau got up in the House of Commons, sometimes 5 times, 6 times during question period, repeating those talking points about 8 out of 10 Canadians are getting more money in their pocket through the Canadian carbon rebate. So it was all a lie. Now, why should we believe you today? Because you have been lying to us and you're just clearly trying to hold on to power in a very desperate way. And I'll tell you, it's disgusting. But it's just as disgusting to see Doug Ford try to exploit this situation for his own political good. Let's remember this next election, federal election at any rate, is Justin Trudeau versus the Conservatives. That's what this election is about. Justin Trudeau cannot be allowed to make this election about Justin Trudeau versus Donald Trump or Canada versus Donald Trump. We need to get with the reality of what Donald Trump is saying on the border. Yes, there are serious problems at the border, and Justin Trudeau has no intention at all of fixing them or solving them or even admitting they are problems. He is dismissive, completely dismissive. And until this Liberal government can acknowledge their failures, those tariffs are coming on February 1st. And Justin Trudeau can make light of it. And yeah, and here he is. We've got to show you this.
He has talked about the border as being a great preoccupation for him.
A great preoccupation. And Dunderhead couldn't even get his sweater on straight on the right way. He had it on backwards. It is incredible. And then I had to laugh when he's talking about all that cocaine seized at the border. I wonder where it went. This man is incapable of leading this country. We need an election, and we need one as soon as possible, because this government is not legitimate. This government is not in control. This government is not representing Canadians. I'll be back in a minute after a reminder about the story here. Thank you so much for watching today. I will be back again tomorrow. We're going to keep on this issue every day because we need Canadians to know what the real issues are. We cannot let any government in this country make this any next election about themselves against Donald Trump. We need to solve this issue with Donald Trump right away. And I don't think this Liberal government is capable of doing that. So thank you for watching. I'll be back again tomorrow. Let's continue to resolve to resist. And we'll be back with all the news you need to know.